it's a difficult one because all the Christians I've met, nearly all the Christians I've met, seem to be wonderful people doing great things. And yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the experience a lot of people have had who I've spoken to. So who knows? Today, I have spared you from reading the entire book of Habakkuk, the prophet from the Old Testament, albeit admittedly, again, this is another of the minor prophets, so it's very short. There's only 3 chapters, but, it all helps. There's quite a distinct structure to this, and it's even headed out in the Bible, so even I can see it. So it talks about Habakkuk is doing some sort of complaint to God, and then God responds, and then there's another complaint, another response, and then it finishes on this big sort of happy prayer to God. The initial complaint seems to be all about justice and the lack of it, and Habakkuk's observation that everybody around him is doing whatever the hell they want and don't seem to get any comeuppance for it, as it were. God then handily answers. I quite like this format. It's quite a nice way to do it and quite clear. And God says, no, don't worry about it. This is what Babylon is coming for. In terms of timing, I think this is... it is a good couple of 100 years before the Babylonian exile that God is predicting Babylon coming and exiling them. So, yeah, it's not that interesting going into whether it's dated here, there, or whatever. I mean, it's supposed to be written at this point, obviously 100 years plus before. Whether it was actually done afterwards, I don't think we really care because we can't be sure either way. But yes, so very clear question, very clear answer. People aren't going to get away with it because that's what Babylon are coming for. I guess mixed up in that is the slight problem that there's got to be some good people, surely, and they're going to get kicked with it as well. But I guess we'll worry about that later. Habakkuk then raises another gripe. It's along similar sort of lines. And I guess it's the same with both of these. That there's the whole idea of if I were God objection to God. And I did a video about this on the paradox responsibility, or responsibility paradox, whatever it was. And this interesting idea that a lot of complaints at God come from the position, if I were in that position, then I wouldn't do it like this. And that's got an inbuilt problem to it, obviously, because it assumes that we're on the level where we could understand what would make sense to God. So they're really silly arguments, I think. But I suppose in this sense, you could just see it as Habakkuk just venting his frustrations, which is, I guess that's valid. But yeah, anything along the lines of, if I were God, I wouldn't do it like that. It's like, well, it's a good thing you're not, isn't it? Let's be honest. God, anyway, has an interesting response to this. And part of the response I thought I would read. So we just need to go and grab the big, beautiful birthday Bible. So we need the keeper of the book. This is chapter 2, verse 4 and 5, which says, "See, the enemy is puffed up. His desires are not upright, but the righteous people will live by his faithfulness. Indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant and never at rest. Because he is greedy as the grave and like death is never satisfied, he gathers to himself all the nations and takes captives of all the people." So, yeah, I think if you miss out the last couple of lines of that, it makes more sense, because it suddenly sounds like it's talking about a nation, when before it sounded like it was talking about people. But it was that idea of living by righteous people live by their faithfulness that was really interesting. So that seemed a much more modern Christian idea rather than at this point. So yeah, I don't quite know. There is a footnote that says it's faithfulness or faith. So living by faith is where your righteousness comes from. And that is a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because you've got to quite work out, what does that mean? It's on a superficial level. It's like, well, you just have to have faith that this stuff is true, and then you're doing it. But what if your actions don't then match up with what you say you believe? I think that's one of the big problems. And I think it's going to be one of the key themes that will be up this thing I'm doing on the 11th of June. So one of the key, you get a lot of objections to why the Bible might not be true and why people aren't interested in all the rest of it. One of the key ones I think that seems to be emerging is the problem with Christianity is some Christians. And in that, you've got boiled up this whole idea of the righteous living by faithfulness. It's like, well, are they? And it's really interesting. I think that one is people who say they believe, but then it's like, well, it doesn't look like you believe. And then potentially you could look at me and I still do lots of things wrong, obviously. But I hope you would look and think, okay, he's at least trying to live like that's true, even though he doesn't actually believe it. So it's an issue close to my heart at the minute. It's a difficult one, because all the Christians I've met, nearly all the Christians I've met, seem to be wonderful people doing great things, and but that doesn't seem to be the experience a lot of people have had who I've spoken to. So who knows? We'll have to have a sort of think about that, and hopefully doing this event on the 11th of June will help. We then have something that God has raised before. I like it when he does this. He questions about the value of idols made by people, like basically saying, you got your jewellery, you melted down to make this golden calf and popped out and you worship it, but you just made it out of your earrings and necklaces and things. So it's obviously not a real thing. And that's nice, because you see people doing that and you're like, what is wrong with you? It's like you're completely barking mad. And so God has called that out once or twice before and has done it again. We then seem to have the case that Habakkuk is convinced, so he has a nice joyous prayer about how wonderful God is and all the great things that are coming and how just he is and all the rest of it. And all is well. So, again, getting these out quick, because we've only got a couple more days until the big event, by which point I would like to have all the videos out. But on we shall go and see what's next.